You guys might have heard about the famous movie Gone Girl. Well, today's story is one of South Korea's biggest mystery case, named as the South Korean version of Gone Girl. It's about a woman who faked her own death, and it's still a mystery of what actually happened to the mystery woman, the other woman who actually died in her place. Today's story is also compared to the famous Korean movie Hwata, and how love and breakups can drive somebody to act as crazy as possible, even leading to faking your own death with another body, replacing your own death with another body. Today's story is crazy, you guys. So remember, if you like these stories, they're very important to share and to learn. Hit the like button, subscribing really helps me to continue making these stories. Before we also get started, I want to ask how many of you guys are looking for some passive incomes, because I work at home, I work for myself, but there are times when I'm like, damn, I wish I had another income coming in, and I found one of the best, easiest ways for you guys to make side income, and I have it on my phone here. Tester. This is one of the coolest sponsors that I got, because it's an app on your phone, on your computer, or your tablets where you can make money by just playing games, doing some surveys, and basically becoming a tester for these games. They pay you through PayPal, and if you like to play mobile games, why not make money doing it? So there's over like 50 tasks available after your registration. There is even famous games that I play on my mobile phone, and I play them anyway so I can make money while playing. Amazing. You can earn up to $80 per job. It's also a low payout limit, it's only $70, and you can cash out. There's really great reviews about TesterUp on Trustpilot. There's over 2.7 million users here. You can download TesterUp using my QR code or the link in the description box. Thank you so much to today's sponsor, TesterUp. It really helps me to continue this channel. So today's wild story began somewhere in the 2000s. There's a woman named Jung, and she was a high school teacher somewhere in Busan. She was specifically a teacher for senior students, so they have one more year until they graduate and go off to college. She graduated from Ivy League school herself, so she was very smart, and her nickname among her class students was Barbie. Teacher Barbie, because that's how beautiful she actually was. Now, apparently a lot of students, male students especially, fell in love with her, and one of the students that really fell in love with her was Kim. Now, he was still a student, a high school student, and he says that, due to the teacher being so pretty, it actually motivated him to work even harder and to get into one of the best colleges that he can. And as we know, as we were all younger, we had that little crush on our students. It's a normal thing when you're in school. He studied so hard and got a lot of help from teacher Barbie that he himself actually ended up going to an Ivy League school somewhere in Seoul. Now, when we say Ivy League school in South Korea, that's a big deal, because in South Korea, everything is about education and going to the best school. So having a pretty teacher definitely helps. Now, before around the time that he graduated, he would confess his love to teacher Barbie, Miss Jung, and said, "Teacher, I really like you, and I'm gonna come back as an adult and I'm gonna sweep your foot." I don't know if that's a term, but. And Kim surprisingly actually kept his word. He ended up moving to Seoul. From Seoul to Busan, it's actually a 5 to 6 hour drive, so it's like the top and the end. It's like the longest long distance you can do in South Korea. So he started going to this Ivy League school and came back to Busan to meet Miss Jung and confess his love for her, and said, "Hey, I made my promise, I came back, I'm still in love with you." And somewhere along the way, the two actually decided to date each other and became boyfriend and girlfriend. The thing is, by then, of course, Kim, he was an adult. He was about 20 years old. I'm not sure if that was the Korean age, but that means he's even younger. Not international age, 19 years old. So let's say 1920. He was an adult. But Miss Chung, she was actually 32 to 33 years old at the time. So they had about a 13-year age gap, you guys. So in this case, I'm like, what was actually Miss Chung's head going through at this time of thinking of dating her high school students and having a 13-year age difference, but you know, they're adults and they decided to do whatever and follow their hearts. As the two decided to date, remember this was long distance. Kim was in Seoul and Jung was in Busan. So despite that, they still somehow saw each other time to time. And allegedly, Miss Jung said that she came from a well-off background. Now, she claims that her father passed away and got inheritance of land from him. So this land that apparently she owned was worth about $2 million at the time. She was also a teacher. She was in her early 30s, so she's been working for quite a bit now. Obviously, she had some money compared to Kim, who was just a student, and you don't have a lot of money when you're a student. So she would buy him, you know, gifts or whatever he wanted. She was the one who would go and pay most of the date expenses that they had. So meals, cafe, went to go see him. You know, she had a car. It seemed like she had a nice car at the time. So you could kind of see the dynamic, but the two still had hot love for each other and they dated for 7 years, which is even wilder. Like, wow, congrats to them, right? Now, Kim was 27 years old and Miss Jung was 40 years old. So for Kim, he started to have different ideas and thoughts and where he wanted to go about life. Now that he was approaching his late 20s, he knew that he had to get a good job, save up some money, really figure out his life plan to have a stable career to create a family one day. He would have to think about marriage and he wasn't quite ready for that. And Miss Jung, being 40 now, you know, she, I'm sure, wanted to settle down. So Kim decided that they needed to go their separate ways and decided to break up. But actually the main reason why he decided to break up was he found out a big secret that Miss Jung has been keeping from him. So while they were dating, Miss Jung had a niece, a female niece, and said, hey, this is my sibling's daughter. Now, Kim found out that actually this niece, as he knew it, was actually Miss Jung's daughter, and she was a divorcee. She got divorced somewhere along the line, had a daughter, and disguised the daughter as her niece, and Kim was obviously shocked, like, I've been dating you for 7 years and you did not tell me the truth. That is a big deal. Once he found that out, I'm sure he thought this was one of the biggest betrayals and just decided that he needed to break up with her. In their breakup meeting, Miss Jung really did not want to break up with him and tried to cling on to him by saying, all right, you know what? I'm sorry for everything I lied. I'm gonna sell my $2 million land from Korea and let's immigrate. I tried to cling on and persuade him to stay in the relationship by using money. So again, a female using money to persuade a man to stay in the relationship, it can create this odd, you know, dynamic. Jung refused the offer and they decided to still break up. Only 3 months into the breakup, Kim found a new woman that was around his age, I guess from his graduate school, and just seemingly kind of moved on with a new person after dating somebody for 7 years. Now, Miss Jung found that out, and one day, again, 3 months since the breakup, she sent a message to Kim. And this was a photo of an ultrasound claiming that she was pregnant. Not only that, she somehow found out who Kim's current girlfriend was and sent her photos of the ultrasound saying, hey, I'm pregnant with your boyfriend's baby. Which, you know, I could kind of understand when you've been in a relationship with somebody for 7 years and to see them move on so quickly within 3 months, I'm sure it was devastating and shocking for her as well. Like, that's actually pretty quick that he's moved on, like only 3 months. So the two decided to meet up in person to discuss what to do with this child, and Miss Jung went all the way up to Seoul to meet up with Kim. Now, when they were inside of their car discussing what they were going to do with the baby and things like that, you know, she was so upset that she actually took out a poisonous bottle, substance that had poison if you were to ingest it, and threatened to herself. And that's when Kim got really shocked and took the bottle and threw it out the window of their car. Obviously, the conversation did not go well, and a couple of months later, Jung would message him again saying, hey, I got rid of the baby. It's your fault of my emotional damage. Then a few weeks later would message him again and say, Actually, that was a lie. I kept the baby, I'm gonna keep the baby, and you're responsible for it. So clearly, she was kind of also driving herself crazy by clinging onto this guy and going back and forth with such extreme claims and using the baby to say, I'm gonna get rid of it. No, I'm not. Like, it's your fault. Then after that, she would kind of go cold, silent, and Kim still cared about her and the baby and would try to contact her, but she was nowhere to be found. And he got worried, like, wait, what happened to the baby? Like, I'm actually scared for the baby's life. Now, shortly after she went cold, silent, it was 2010, September 10th. He got a knock on the door, and it was actually the cops looking for him because apparently they arrested Miss Jung and wanted some answers from him. So this is where actually the whole crazy story, the lies, and everything unfolded. So here is a video of a woman inside of an insurance building. She came in claiming that her sister or her family member had passed away and she was there to claim the insurance money. This woman is actually getting arrested because the insurance claims found out about the lies and the scam this woman was doing, and the cops here are arresting her. The crazy part about the story is that the person who died was Miss Jung, the Barbie student teacher. But the person who's also getting arrested was actually Miss Jung herself. So how are you claiming the insurance of money on death of yourself? So basically, she was claiming the insurance money of her own death. But obviously, you can't really scam out of a death. So the person who actually died in the hospital, who was that? That was not Miss Jung, because she's clearly alive here. Come to find out, Miss Jung had about 4 different life insurance policies under her name that amounted to about a little over $2 million. And after a thorough investigation, it was indeed true that somebody had to die pretending to be Miss Jung. Now, this woman turned out to be actually a real woman who passed away, and she was a 26-year-old, actually a homeless woman. Now, this woman was Miss Lee, and she was living homeless, bouncing back between women's shelters, and she was actually from the Daegu province, not Busan. So it could be that she was targeted because she was homeless and there was nobody technically looking for her because she strayed away from her friends and family. So the crazy timeline is that the breakup happened on February of 2010. And in March, only a couple weeks, a month later, that is when Miss Jung would write an email to a female homeless shelter. And in the email, she claimed that she was an owner of a daycare and she was looking through some female shelters to see if she could hire anybody to become a daycare worker. Now, she contacted one of a female shelter in Daegu province and they said, hey, we have a 26-year-old female, Lee, and we're gonna recommend her to you. So they even set up a date where Jung was supposed to come to Daegu province, pick her up, and move her to Busan. So apparently, I guess she had even a job for this woman, a place where she can stay. And it seemed like for 26-year-old Lee, who has been homeless and bouncing back between shelters, it was like a lottery to her. She could start a new life. So the date was set. She had her perfect victim. Somewhere in June of 2010, so a couple months after the email, Miss Jung would go to the female shelter in Daegu herself to pick up Miss Lee. From here, the story, we can only rely on Miss Jung because Miss Lee is not here to tell the story and nobody actually knows exactly what happened. So according to Miss Jung, she said that she picked up Miss Lee, and from the car ride, she says that Lee started to talk about self-unaliving and how depressed she was, and that she was talking about how she strayed away from family and how she was hurt by multiple men. And that's one of the reasons why she was going to the shelters, because she had nobody she could trust. But basically that she was so sad that she wanted to end her life. Then the two decided to get some beer, and they bought some beer and they started drinking. And that is when, again, Miss Lee, the 26-year-old who was supposed to get a job from her, said, I'm going to end now, and apparently had a bottle of toxins with her and drank it. Now, Miss Chung says after noticing that, she was like, oh my god, like she just drank a bottle of toxins, and decided to take her to the hospital, and that is when she passed away. To the hospital crew and doctor, she said that she was like a family friend and that she drank so much, and they believe that's why she passed away. And from there, Miss Chung says that she thought of an idea, like, I didn't kill her, I didn't murder her, so let me just switch my identity, and somehow convince the hospital that the person, the 26-year-old woman who passed away, was Miss Chung. I guess like put her ID in her pants or something, and somehow convince the hospital that she had the power and permission to cremate the body, which is something that only a family member can do. So I'm not sure how she pulled this off to the hospital, but she was able to do it. And about a couple days later, the body of Miss Lee, not Miss Chung, was cremated. So there was no evidence that we can go back to see what exactly happened to her. Really odd, somebody that you just met, technically a stranger, decided to do all of this in front of you. And this is how she was able to fake her own death to get the insurance money. And she almost pulled through. Some evidence that the investigators found later on in Miss Chung's computer search history was toxin death, life insurance after the victim dies. And this was a search history back in April, so before she even picked up the victim. And also all about after death life insurance. So she searched up all of this, and the timing just seems to be too perfect to say that this was not pre-planned. The crazy thing also was when she was sending out that email to the female shelters, that is around the time when she applied for the life insurances under her name. She actually applied for 7 different life insurance, but only 4 went through. And one of them, the day before Miss Lee went missing, Miss Chung would apply for 1 more life insurance. So when Miss Chung was caught and was interrogated to see what actually happened to Miss Lee, if it really was a self, or did Miss Chung somehow murder this woman? And Miss Chung had a couple stories claiming that Lee, actually was somebody that I kind of got to know for a couple of months. And she said she asked me to clean up after her because this was what she was planning to do all along. Now, the toxins that she searched up in her history, this particular toxin, has no odor and apparently not a lot of taste to it. So it can be masked with obviously a strong flavored drink like beer. So we'll technically never know if Miss Chung actually murdered her or not. What do you guys think? Obviously, it's highly likely that Miss Chung definitely played a role in this. Another interesting thing is during the investigation, Miss Chung really emphasized, please do not investigate or interrogate my ex-boyfriend, Kim. And apparently every interrogation that they did, she would bring up her ex-boyfriend. Obviously, the police did have to investigate people around her, and the ex-boyfriend Kim was interrogated. And come to find out, actually, Miss Chung lied pretty much everything about her life to Kim. The fact that, again, with the niece, it was actually her daughter. She was divorced. He didn't know that. The inheritance was a lie. She never had this land that came from her father. Interesting how she claimed that the land was worth $2 million, and her life insurance that she was about to claim was also worth $2 million. Also, murdering somebody all within less than a year pointed to the fact that she did this to get most likely her ex-boyfriend back, and she was just so heartbroken. Also, yes, the baby story was fake. She was not pregnant. That was a lie as well. Not to mention, it was July when Kim, the ex-boyfriend, and Chung met up inside of their car to discuss about the baby. That was when pretty much Miss Chung was supposed to be dead. And remember, during that car meeting about the baby, she pulled out a substance and tried to threaten her own life. And that was proof that Miss Chung actually did purchase and have a substance. Similar substance that she searched up on her computer, which also mounted to the evidence of her possibly murdering Miss Lee. So here was the outcome of the court case. During the first verdict, Miss Chung was found guilty, and there was a probable cause that she actually did murder Miss Chung. The case she appealed, and in the appeal case, the judges really flipped the case and said that actually there's no way to find out if Miss Lee was murdered or self, because the body, we don't have the body, and it's unfair to predict that. And she was only given 5 years. Now, of course, the prosecutors appealed that, and the case went to Supreme Supreme. And in the Supreme Court trial, it was ruled that she was most likely guilty and sent it to another court. This is like the last process now. And in the final verdict, the judges did rule that she was guilty and was sentenced a life sentencing. The prosecutors said that they did not want this innocent victim who was pretty much nameless, who pretty much was not looked for or searched or declared missing by her family and friends, and that it was unfair that this victim was not going to get justice. So the ultimate question is, what do you guys think? Did Miss Chung murder Miss Lee? And what actually happens? I think this story really teaches you that yes, love and breakups are so complicated. It brings out one of the worst emotions that you can. And to see that somebody has moved on after such a long time of getting to know them. But at the end of the day, you have to know that if this person doesn't want to be with you, they don't want to be with you. And to go as far as to try and convince someone with millions of dollars and to murder somebody and to fake your own death is just crazy to me, right? And you have to really keep your sanity and know your worth. But it also teaches you how pain and heartbreaks can lead you down a craziness and insanity. So let me know what you guys have thought about today's story and today's Gone Girl. I know it's not completely to the movie of Gone Girl, it just reminded me of that movie. Thank you so much for watching. Leave your thoughts down below. Remember to hit the like button and remember to check out Tester Up so that you can make some passive income while playing fun games.